What up? I'm Josh Paulison, and welcome to my programming vlog. So I want to talk about how I have these buttons here working. One of the things that's tricky about them is that you need to be able to, when they are hidden, click around here, and you might think that by default they would just deactivate, but we don't actually want that. We want them to still work because they end up letting us go forward, they end up letting us go backwards, and access the menu. So these buttons can't just hide. They have to still work. They have to still function. But then we run into other issues because when we have this link here, we don't want those buttons to cover up the link. We want to make sure that we can click on the link. And the same goes with other types of inputs that you can have in a visual novel, which this is a kinetic novel, so this link is really the only thing, but we want to have that option available. So how do we do that? Well, we end up actually tracking where the user is clicking manually. So we end up going, okay, well, on pointer down, we are going to see where your touch is, where your pointer is, whether that's a cursor or a touch. We end up, and this is honestly the messiest code in ShowPony. I think this is the worst code, so I feel like I'm showing you some nasty stuff. But we end up checking the collision, and we see where your pointer is compared to the buttons. And so we check first for pause, we check next for progress button, we check for regress button, and it's changing these classes manually. There's not a hover or an active class on these buttons. It's actually completely untied to that. Oh yeah, another reason why we had to do that, let's go to manga. So we can scroll the manga, but if we have the buttons in front of them, so for example, in this case, the menu is pause, there's an element in front, we can't scroll. So that was another, I think that was actually the primary reason why we had to have it actually just check where you were, where your cursor was positioned and add the classes manually. An interesting problem to solve, but also a pretty cool one in my opinion. So that's how we ended up having these buttons work. We couldn't just have them be buttons because we had to be able to scroll behind them, and we needed to make sure that they worked all of the time. So just a simple collision, and since these are squares, this is very easy. We're just checking, okay, is your cursor like within the range of the square? Is it above it? Is it left? Is it right? Is it down? If it is not any of those things, we know that it is within, and therefore you are in the right spot. You can activate this button. So pretty simple. And no, these aren't squares, but they're squares behind this, and so this one activates first. If this one doesn't activate, then it could check these ones, but otherwise it'll run so it'll run this one unless we're not over it, in which case it'll check for the other buttons which do not cross paths. So pretty simple. Well, okay, no, I lied. It's not simple, but that's how we ended up making these buttons work and allowed you to be able to scroll while still being able to access these buttons.